Kia ora, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Ultimate Growth Experience podcast. Today I have two distinctive guests. Liang and Elvis Ludvich are two talented scholars, and they've been very successful as students, quite frankly. So John is currently a graduate and a consultant at Ernst Young, and Elvis is a BA student majoring in economics and politics. They are both incredibly astute in the world of economics, professional services, and politics. And both are well known for regarding education, academic success, and business. So John and Elvis have already achieved great success. One has achieved the Prime Minister's Scholarship for Latin America, and the other has received CAPE Scholarships to work in Colombia. So John, Elvis, thank you for joining me.
Kia ora, good morning. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Liam. That amazing introduction.
It's a pleasure. So both of you are unbelievable scholars. Like, I know that fact that you finished first in a number of your courses, like in Econ. I know that your GPA is around 8.7? 8.6. I think that's in the top 1/10 to 1% of uni, I think. Like, what motivates you both to just push yourselves in that manner?
Well, for me, economics is an area that I'm very, very passionate about, very interested in, because sort of growing up, I was quite involved with UN Youth and always really appreciated a sort of more macro view of the world, like international relationships, how the economy is doing, and studying economics at university really provided that view. And also, it really helped me to develop my passion in, fighting climate change and sustainability through learning about, energy, environmental and resource economics, and gaining an understanding in, the green growth model, these different economic theories that reassure us growth is compatible with climate change, sustainability, not mutually exclusive. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, it was just that interest in that field. And it's like always really wanting to learn more in it.
And an interesting point is that, John, you and me actually first met at UN Youth.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we keep, that we rekindled lately, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. What about you, Elvis?
I would definitely agree with that point on personal engagement and investment in the subject being key for academic success. For me, I got interested in economics and politics through the side of language and culture.
Okay.
So all through school, kind of learning languages was my focus and is the thing that I'm probably most passionate about. And then I found economics and politics as a way of kind of making that more applicable to the real world, if you like. Which I've personally found fascinating and has really helped me develop my understanding of the ways that different cultures function, how they interact, and what that means for all of us.
So your passion towards academics stem from this inherent strive for knowledge and growth, and just in general to understand more about the world. Does that sum mostly about?
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah, in terms of no, but in terms of sustainable development, though, I mean, what made you get into that? Because we have global and domestic problems simultaneously, and this is a very a complicated topic. Yeah, and I just want to hear what made you get really into doing one Jeffrey Sachs program.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. We have indeed many challenges that the entire humanity is facing, from fighting poverty to gender equality, like just many different things. The reason why I'm really sort of passionate in the sustainability area is, once again, I feel like that, like, fighting climate change and sustainability is a challenge that the entire human race faces, and it is one that requires really the world coming together to solve. Frameworks like the Kyoto Protocol or the Paris Agreement. And Leo, mate, we've known each other for quite a bit, and if you ask me, John, what's a favourite adjective you would like to use to describe yourself, I would say it's global citizen. I'm really I feel really grateful, really lucky that I, in my 20s have had the chance to now have worked or studied in 5 different continents. So really have gained that global perspective. So have always been super sort of keen on global cooperation to tackle big challenges, and climate change and sustainability really is one challenge that is an existential threat to all of us, and it is very, very serious. In 2015, all the nations of the world came together and decided on the 1.5 degree target. It wasn't some arbitrary number that scientists conjured up, anything beyond which would see catastrophic results to our planet. And in order to achieve that, we need to be net carbon neutral by 2070. If the business as usual case goes on, we are at about 2100. That's the time when we'll achieve net zero carbon emissions. So definitely a huge challenge that we all face together.
Did you begin your intellectual journey into these sort of topics, like let's say about 4 or 5 years ago, or was it?
It was like a gradual process.
Gradual process.
In university. And I guess this is a good segue into like our sort of further conversation about our Latin America experience.
That's right.
And in university, I like I said earlier on, did economics, and that really provided an academic lens towards what are the economic policies around resource management, cutting carbon emissions, green growth, these kind of things. And then the professional experience with in Colombia, supported by the PMSLA, was a tremendous experience that helped me to gain a real-world understanding of how these different sustainability ideas can translate into work in the real business world, and what are some strategies and ways for organizations, businesses to actually deal with climate change and sustainability. So just on a side note, Bancolombia, I was interning with the sustainability department there, and they were ranked the world's most sustainable bank based on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index in 2018, so the time I interned there. So it was an incredible experience.
And that led you into your graduate position in EY, and are you doing something similar at the moment with Ernst Young in relation to sustainable development?
At the moment I'm in the advisory team at EY, and EY has the culture and the purpose of building a better working world, and obviously sustainability is something that comes very close to heart within the purpose of building a better working world.
That's right.
Because what is a working world without that's not sustainable, right? So so a huge array of projects helping clients with all sorts of needs. So great platform.
I think you're doing a good job. So Elvis, since we're in high school, is that when you sort of decided, actually, I need to get my act together, I need to really push myself and be very innovative? Or was it something like John way, or incremental way of step by step into a position where you're now?
I think it's definitely been a step by step process. I guess my passion for languages is really what's been driving me recently, and that's come about largely through high school when I started learning French and Spanish, and that has kind of provided the impetus for a variety of things that I've been doing, like exchanges. Like I did an exchange in France while I was at high school, and that was kind of my first international experience, my first immersion experience. And really gave me some of the skills and the knowledge about what living in a different country is like that made me interested in doing this internship in Colombia. And that's actually where I met John, because we were flatmates during this period. So, while I was over there, I was working with the Gobernación de Antioquia, which is the local government in Antioquia province, where I was in the youth development team. And so that was a really fascinating experience for me. And quite, as John said, I feel it was quite a formative one because of the way that, it contextualized all of what I'd been interested in already at university, because, topics of development and I guess trade had been what I was most interested in while I was studying, and then getting that opportunity to work in the government in a developing country really just provided such an insight into the processes, the concerns, and just the very big problems that we're currently facing, and what a variety of really inspiring people are doing to try and tackle these. So in contrast to John, I would say that my own personal focus is more on the side of human development. I'm really interested in issues around poverty and around eradication of conflict. My experience in Colombia definitely fed into this to a very large extent. Because of the fact that I was engaging with these issues on a daily basis.
No, because I can see both of you, in a way, being really influenced by the experience you had in Colombia. So what were the main lessons you could say that you learned by working and sort of living in Colombia in that period?
Would you like to go first?
Sure. For me, I think one of the main ones is just the ability to change your mindset to step into a different cultural perspective. Because especially because I was in an immersion environment. Like in my office, all of the people were Colombian. Everyone spoke Spanish, and so it was a very authentic experience. And I ended up doing quite a lot of traveling and going to small towns, because we were working in youth development. That meant that a lot of our work was based around going to, I guess, rural areas and doing programs that the government has set in place, basically to keep kids engaged, to promote good practices, I guess, academically and personally, just to keep up faith in the government, which was one of the most interesting aspects of the experience for me, was looking at issues of kind of advertising and propaganda almost, but from the perspective of the government, because that does become such an interesting perspective when the alternative to supporting the government, to believing in it, is the conflict that does occur in developing countries.
So did it give you understanding that actually we are very lucky to be in New Zealand, and the fact that, well, we have a very well-established infrastructure, we have a trustworthy government, we have a system that's quite transparent? Because for me, as you know, that I'm going to Mexico next year, so I have a feeling that I'm going to have that same sort of humility and empathy towards the fact, geez, there are a lot of people out there that are living in extreme poverty. They're not as well off as us. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Colombia is an amazing country, incredible people, incredible culture. The warmth and the depth of their culture is just absolutely extraordinary. However, having lived there for 3 months, you really gain an appreciation of the privileges that we have here in New Zealand. And I would say the biggest takeaway for me, mate, is I remember, on the plane back to New Zealand, just thinking to myself, wow, it really isn't enough, especially for young people like us, to just say, oh, look, we have all these great privileges in New Zealand, we're very grateful, that's it. I really felt like after the Colombia experience that we should, not just take our privileges for granted, in the sense that we should make something out of the great privileges that we have, doing something like what you're doing, out of your way, and really making an impact in this world, because it's not just about New Zealand, it's not just about APAC, it's about the world. Countries like Colombia, Latin American countries, Asian countries, they're looking to the industrialized world, for example, and coming back to the area that I'm passionate about and dealing with climate change and sustainability, the business practices, the thought leadership, a strong international framework. So we need people to support those, and really in New Zealand we're in a very privileged position where we can talk about climate change and sustainability over a cup of coffee and not having to worry about or a lot of things that people in Colombia do need to worry about. So yeah, that was definitely sort of my biggest takeaway from the experience. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Do you think that Latin America and Colombia is getting better as each year, on an economic scale, in a developmental scale?
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Not like Venezuela, is it?
Tricky topic. I mean, it's like Colombia is undergoing tremendous transformation. The city that we were managing, during our first week or so, we visited Comuna 13, which was one of the most sort of drug-plagued, dangerous communities, and its drug trading days with Pablo Escobar and whatnot. Medellin was one of the world's most dangerous cities, but over the past few decades, the city has transformed into an entrepreneurial innovation hub of not only Colombia but the entire Latin American region. And working and living there, we definitely felt that vibe. At the 2019 World Economic Forum earlier on this year, Medellin was named the 5th Industrial Revolution 4.0 model cities of the world.
That's great.
Are the only one in Latin America. And they're doing tremendous work in like the cutting edge technologies, urban development. The public transport there is just through the roof. They have cable cars reaching into so Medellin is based in the valley. The more developed part of the city is in the valley itself, and then you have sort of the less developed communities reaching up the mountainsides. And then what the government has done is they've built all these cable cars reaching up the mountains to connect and integrate those poor communities into the economic development. And so you have literally like cable cars going over forests, going over mountains to these communities, and it's all public transport. It's like 50 cents New Zealand currency. So yeah, they're undergoing tremendous transformation. Yeah.
Let's see it continue.
Yeah, it's something really exciting to be able to witness, honestly, because of the fact that 20 years ago, this was the realm of Pablo Escobar. I think Medellin was like the 3rd highest in the world in terms of homicide rates. Yeah. It was not a nice place to be. And in the space of an incredibly short amount of time, just everything has been transformed. And at the moment, what you see and what you feel when you even just walk through the streets, but especially working through the government, and I'm sure it was the same in Colombia, is that there's just this kind of upsurge in energy and enthusiasm for development amongst all of the people of Medellin, and it's really, really exciting and inspiring to witness. Yeah. Because all of the people kind of have felt this transformation occur over their own lifetimes, and so that gives them tremendous hope for the future and what can still be accomplished. Yeah.
No, because I have a sense that Latin America will sort of be like the East Asian miracle that we've witnessed in the last 30 years, and I'm sure that they'll continue to grow economically and see their societies prosper. Now we're going to go into the real bits and pieces that a lot of my other friends wanted to know, in fact. So in terms of the fact that, Elvis, you received the CAPE Scholarship, and John, you've received the Prime Minister's Scholarship for Latin America. So can you go through the application process for this? And second of all, I know a lot of students that could easily get these, and yet they fail to take advantage of these opportunities, eh? So what do you say about that?
My first comment on that would be just be on the lookout as much as you can. I didn't know anything about this until one day, I was coming back from Kate Edgar, and I was walking past the Career Center, and there was a little poster in the window, a tiny little A4 thing, and I just happened to glance up, and it was want to spend your summer in Medellin? And I was I guess I could do that. Walked past, completely forgot about it. Anyway, about a week later, I was walking past the same thing, looked at it, it's actually that could be really cool. And so I went home and I did the initial application, which was actually for a university Prime Minister's scholarship, what John eventually ended up doing. And yeah, so I sent through my application for that, and then again, kind of forgot about it. That initial stage of the application was quite simple. I think it was just like CV and a few paragraphs. But then, yeah, a few weeks later, I was declined from that, and so yeah, I lost all hope in MSc in Colombia. But then,
next minute,
exactly, I was directed by the Career Service to the CAPE Scholarship, which is more based around cultural understanding and exchange, which is actually a lot more suited to what I was going for. And so, yeah, went through the process of that, which was quite a complicated one. Applications are always really time consuming.
Don't get me started, mate. I'm in my bloody 50 and
yeah.
all them damn CVs and cover letters you have to go through every day.
Exactly. But I think the CAPE and the Prime Minister's one are fairly standard. They want CV, cover letter, and video. But yeah, basically just have to get it all together, and then I was accepted into the program and then started preparing.
And then you both became mates, and now you're doing this podcast together.
Exactly.
Would you like to explain what CAPE stands for?
Yeah, so CAPE is the Centre for Asia Pacific Excellence.
Yeah.
And it's a body that exists, I guess, to bring about more exchange of ideas, people, just culture between New Zealand, Latin America, and Asia. And so they fund a variety of projects, including various scholarships, which are mostly designed to get, I think it's predominantly uni students, experience working in either Asia or Latin America.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of students know that these opportunities exist, and you two gentlemen are the ones that definitely have experienced some amazing stuff in the last year through this as well. So, okay, so do you think that they need to just take more initiative?
Yeah. Like what Elvis said, just keep on the lookout. There's so many great opportunities like this out there. The Prime Minister's Scholarship is a tremendous opportunity. It's a very comprehensive scholarship, so honestly very, very grateful that our government has this program to support young people. The purpose of PMSLA is to also promote interpersonal connections between New Zealand and Latin America, which is, if I may just provide a bit more perspective here, an extremely important region to us. There is what we call the Pacific Alliance. And New Zealand is, at the moment, negotiating a free trade agreement with the Pacific Alliance so that we can trade as a bloc. And also, being an associate member of the Pacific Alliance. So it is an extraordinary region for us. Huge sort of complementary economies. And really, it's you come down to it, it's the interpersonal connections that really binds the two regions together. In terms of the application process, so I can share the link of my application video with your audience later on. So yeah, basically a lot of questions. If you apply individually, there were a lot of questions. You had to answer how you sort of plan to achieve the goals of the scholarship, essentially. How you plan to extend the networks during your time in Latin America, and what actions you plan to take upon your return, and also the standard CV, cover letter, recommendations, and a video. So that's for the individual application for PMSLA. I sort of made, because I really, really wanted to go to Latin America, so I applied for, I guess, two types of PMSLA. One was the individual one, and one was the group one, which was through the university. And the group one through the university was at first CV, cover letter, paragraph questions, and then the shortlisted candidates got invited to an assessment centre where you did group activities and individual interviews. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't an extraordinarily complicated process, but yeah, definitely would just encourage people to, you know, take these opportunities when you see them. Honestly, and I'm sure Elvis and I will both agree on this. You know, it's it has been a life-changing experience. Not even exaggerating. It has been truly a life-changing experience. Yeah.
As a PMSLA scholarship recipient myself, I'm sure that I'll have a life-changing experience as well. Yeah. Awesome. So the next question is, so I know you both really enjoy intellectual ideas and learning and growing. I know you both read a lot as well, specifically the stack of books that I see just around the corner. When did you start reading, and what made you really get into these? Elvis, can you start?
When did I start reading? I first learned to read probably around year 2 or 3.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I guess when I got really into reading was probably around year 8. I started reading Dickens, who I developed a real passion for, and then that just led me through. I got for a few years I got really into classical literature. And just went through kind of the English, French, Russian traditions.
Like Fyodor Dostoevsky and people like that.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Just trying to learn as much as I could, and because I feel like the most amazing thing about literature from different eras is that, like doing an exchange, it kind of allows you to gain an understanding into a different way of looking at the world and a different society with different culture and values. And so I've always been really attracted to gaining these different perspectives, I guess. So that's probably what led me into it. And then from a more academic point of view, I would say in the last few years, the last few years of high school and then university have been really beneficial for me, mostly in terms of, I guess, history, and then more recently economics and politics.
I think we all have that thing, and we all read politics, history, and economics a lot, I think.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, oh man, I couldn't echo what Albert said more. I love reading, and the main reason is because through reading you sort of can gain this experience like no other. You can travel through time, you can travel through space, going into a completely different culture and completely different society. Before I get into like when I started reading, just quickly on that, like throughout university, one of the books that I enjoyed the most was Gone with the Wind, and it took me quite a bit of time to finish it because it's a very long book. But it just, when I finally got into it, I just couldn't get myself out. It was, it takes you right back to the American Civil War period, right to the American South, Atlantic City. It was extraordinary. And yeah, like I the first book that I really sat down and I was like, oh my god, I'm reading a book was when I was in year 7, and it was Sophie's World, a book that I would strongly recommend to anybody. It is a sort of chronology of Western philosophy, all the way from Socrates and Plato to contemporary philosophers, and it was through the book was very, very well written, and it was through the lens of, I think, a 13-year-old girl, Sophie, who was first exploring the world of philosophy, and I was 13 years old back then as well. So it was an amazing experience, and yeah, just throughout high school, university, I really enjoyed reading classics like Pride and Prejudice, Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, what have you, and yeah, that just really enjoyed sort of that, gaining that perspective and going back to a different society, and then you really realize that, like, for example, Pride and Prejudice, like it's back in the day, old England, but then it's like a lot of the challenges, a lot of the social stereotypes, a lot of what's humanity, I guess, hasn't really changed at all. It's you can find it in our modern society. So yeah, that really is character building. Yeah.
Well, they say that human nature barely ever changes.
Yeah.
Is there something that happens back in the day is more likely to happen now?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that history repeats itself,
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
that's right. It's like a journey when you read all these things.
Yeah.
I think somebody said along the lines of that reading books is like looking at a cheat sheet. Do you agree with that?
Mm.
In what sense?
In the sense that, because at the moment we live in a world where everybody's distracted by something, right? It might be YouTube videos, might be Fortnite, might be marijuana, might be other hedonistic temptations. So, like, I'm just curious as to how both of you, because for me, I started reading books very rigorously in the last 3 years. Before that, I was very behind in the academics, very lazy. But I just find interesting how you both were able to overcome those potentials of moving away into a different direction, just really honed and focused.
Well, sort of.
Besides the obviously the purpose and the board.
The fluffy stuff.
That's right.
Yeah,
But it's just really easy to get distracted.
Yeah, how sort of a
That's
technique
right.
is
Yes.
audiobooks. I love audiobooks. It's like the main way that I read. And there are so many resources out there. Audible is a great platform. LibriVox is a very, very good platform. It's a charity-based platform, I'm pretty sure. It's all these out-of-copyright books, and people volunteer to narrate the books, and they put it on the platform. LibriVox is one, and also our library. I mean, it's not many people know about this, but our City Council library has so many audiobooks just out there for you to borrow for free. And yeah, it's an amazing platform. So yeah, audiobooks is the way I read, and it's because like throughout university I'll just be on the bus and listening to Pride and Prejudice, and yeah. So that's a very, very cool experience. Yeah.
Interesting. So John, you've been in the management consulting world for about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that like?
It's a very, very I love consulting as a profession because it's a very direct way for you to make an impact in this world, because as a consultant you have the great privileges of coming in to the society as a young person, as a grad fresh out of university, but then put in this environment to actually work with pretty senior people in different organizations, and really help them to, solve their business problems, develop strategies, reduce risk. So it is a very unique platform, and it's a platform that involves steep learning curves. You really, fast learning is would be really important in the consulting environment, and also sort of the core people skills, because like for technical skills, if you want to gain them, you can just sort of lock yourself up in a room for 2 weeks and learn it, but with people skills it's very different. It takes time, because sort of it takes experiencing different scenarios and learning how to deal with them, and that takes time, and that is another reason why I feel like professional services is great, because you gain that exposure, you have that opportunity to work with real clients in all sorts of industries and all sorts of organizations, and you really gain those technical skills, but also people skills. Yeah.
That's amazing. Speaking of people skills, Elvis, so you do a lot of extracurriculars. I mean, you do ThinkPod, you do the German drama company, was it? Mm-hmm. You do all these other stuff too. So did that help you hone your social skills? And because people don't really focus on the social aspect of the fact that you need to have these sets of skills to be successful, not only as a student, but also in the professional services world that John mentioned.
Definitely. I feel at the moment that probably 2/3 of what I'm learning through my university stage actually comes from the things that I do outside of university. And so that is, duties like ThinkPod, like the German play, like case competitions, and other things that I've been involved in through UN Youth. I feel that these activities, these clubs are really beneficial because of the networking opportunities that they provide, which in itself is a hugely valuable skill. Because dealing with people that you don't know and being able to cooperate and work with them is just fundamentally just an intrinsic part of work life, and is really useful for personal life as well.
That's right. And in terms of, let's say, what you've done, have you had any favorite moments that you thought, man, this really made me boost up and grow?
For me, the German play could be considered that. It's a really amazing thing to be part of. I would, definitely advocate that if either of you or anyone listening has any interest. But the idea of it is that it's a play in German, obviously, but for an audience that is comprised of some German speakers, but also a lot of non-German speakers. So that's a really interesting dynamic, and a really cool thing to be part of, because it means that you have to think about how exactly you're conveying what you're trying to get across, but without the words, because most people won't understand them. And so for me, I guess, acting has been a good way of getting out of my comfort zone, of doing things that I wouldn't normally do. If there's a point that I could pin the personal development label on, it would probably be that.
And speaking of personal development, John, I know that you are an avid dancer. Please tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, I should have known that would pop up at some point. So dancing is great. I love dancing. It's a very important part of my life. That goes all the way back to my exchange at the University of California back in 2016.
UCLA?
Yeah, UCSB, Santa Barbara campus. It was, and it's just like our 3 months in Colombia, another life-changing experience. I absolutely loved it, and I remember sort of first week after we arrived, it was because it was orientation and so all these different things happening on campus, and one of my flatmates was going to one of these dance events. He was like, "Yo, John, why don't you come along?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm all about exploring new things. Let's do it." It was a what was it? It was a salsa and bachata night, and I completely just started off with 2 Their Feet. My roommate decided that he would never go back after that night, but I decided to stay. I was like, man, this is great. I want to learn this, and sort of just from there, hopelessly fell in love with dancing. Have done all sorts of sort of Latin styles and ballroom, like waltz, foxtrot, cha-cha, salsa, bachata. Yeah, and trying to learn a bit more as well. So I reckon it's such a cool way to socialize. Like you get to meet other people and like the musicality of the movements and whatnot. Yeah,
it's a very unique part about you because I don't think there's anyone that I know besides you that does this.
Elvis.
Oh yeah, you too.
I gave Elvis some salsa lessons when we were in Colombia.
I see. What was your experience in this? It seems like you enjoy it too, eh?
Yeah. Similar to John, I guess. I went to Colombia not really having had any experience in dance at all. And in fact, I remember, we got an email one day from the intern group, the group that was organising our accommodation and everything. And they were saying, oh, by the way, there's I think it was compulsory salsa classes that you that we want you to do while you're in Colombia. And I saw that email and I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? But I started showing up to those. I had a lot of fun, and then because I was flatting with John, obviously he got me a lot more involved in the scene, and we went to various other classes and just salsa nights outside of that. And recently, since I've been back in Auckland, I've been taking salsa classes. So getting back into it.
I went to and to anyone or any salsa lovers out there. I 2019 New Year's Eve. I was at Santiago de Cali. I think that's the full name, because people just call it Cali. That's in Colombia, and that's considered the salsa capital of the world. And they have just an out of this world New Year's Eve celebration. Thousands of people dancing salsa together. And yeah, I went there obviously,
As you do.
like a pilgrim. Went to the salsa capital of the world, and danced away into the new year with those thousands of people. It was really good. And Colombia, it's in their blood, like it's in their culture. You walk and like on any street into any community, you hear the salsa music in the background. It's just people live the salsa life, about like carpe diem, seizing the moment.
Ooh.
Like just enjoying being yourself, being present. And it was such a nice way to connect with my colleagues at Bancolombia as well, because we arrived late November and they were having Christmas celebrations and whatnot, so I got invited to the farm of the bank's vice president, and everybody was having a very good time. And then the salsa music went on, and because at that point a lot of my colleagues were still like John, why Colombia? Why did you decide to do this? And then and then the salsa music went on, and we started dancing, and and then by the end of the night they were like, oh yeah, we see why you're here. It was such a great way to connect with people. Yeah.
That's... Oh man, I was about to swear. That's great. From high point, low point. Did you ever, both of you, either of you, have like a low point that sort of maybe in your head thought, my life is really bad, oh goodness, like how do I get out of this? So was there a moment where you had a low point and you overcome it, and how it made you the guys that you are today? Elvis?
I'd say one of the dangers of traveling and doing exchanges and amazing opportunities is that you end up coming back home, and that's always going to be an interesting challenge, and one that you're normally not expecting, I guess, because the thing about being away for an extended period of time is that things change, and also you change, and so that does definitely create some disruption to your life when you come back. So possibly for me, one of the most difficult periods that I've been through was just coming back from Colombia this year. But I'd say my recommendation for getting through it has just been to get out there as much as I can, to meet as many new people by joining clubs, learning new skills, just getting out there.
John?
I absolutely agree with what Alva said. I first experienced that sort of post-exchange low after I returned. So, because in 2016 I did 2 exchanges, one at King's College London and one at the University of California. And then so after spending, it was entirely 400 days overseas, coming back, it was like I wasn't the same me, and the environment around me has changed as well. But that's why a group of us, we got together and we started up SAS. We're really proud of our name, the University of Auckland Study Abroad Student Society. We cater to all the incoming and outgoing exchange students, providing them with a better exchange experience here in New Zealand, and also sort of supporting those who are going out there. But I guess in terms of a low point in life for me, and I guess quite glad that you raised this question, Leo, and so I can share a bit of this life experience. So during high school, I actually had to take a year off due to personal health issues. I had a pretty severe problem with my retina, and so had to literally take a year off school, and sort of, I was only 16 years old back then, and the future seemed pretty bleak. It was like, oh man, can I still finish my high school? Should I still go to university? Is this all going to work out? Well, firstly, it was sort of like, man, this is so unfair, why is this happening to me? But then it was a very, very life-changing experience, because I was going through that, and then sort of just had to stay at home and didn't have much to do. So I listened to this online course. It's called Positive Psychology. It was one of those online courses at Harvard University, and that really changed my mindset as like a 16-year-old facing this challenge. It taught me to it taught me that our experience of the world is highly influenced by where we place our focus. Like, if you only focus on the bad things, then as far as you are concerned, the world's a pretty terrible place. But if you focus on the good stuff, then, it's all about having that positive psychology. So that was definitely a low point in my life, and I'm really glad that I had all the support and got out of that. Decided to finish high school, obviously, and go to university, and not only go to university, but actually do a bunch of cool stuff.
And be an immaculate scholar on top of that. Wow.
And do a bunch of cool stuff at university, and now I'm really, really grateful that have really had all these amazing life experiences and have made so many friends like you and Elvis.
Thank you.
It's been a good ride. Yeah.
That's a fantastic story. Thank you, John. What are your aspirations for the future, lads? Elvis?
I'll be honest, I'm not really sure where exactly I'm going. I guess a central issue that's really dominating my thinking at the moment is that of development, and specifically human development. And so any career that I'd like to have in the future will be focused around dealing with that, and the many problems that it encompasses. Whether that will be through government, through international organisations, or some other means I can't comment at present, but I'll keep you updated.
We'll definitely have a second episode after that. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Elvis is a second-year student. He's not a third or fourth year. He is a young lad, and he's done all this already. So I see this man doing a lot of good stuff in the future. And John?
Yeah. I like I said earlier on, climate change and sustainability is an area that I'm really, really passionate about. So definitely seeing myself doing work in this field, working with businesses and governments to really develop strategies that can help us to tackle this challenge together, providing that thought leadership. Because, I feel like I think it was the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan that said, we are the first generation to be able to end poverty and the last generation to have a chance of dealing with climate change. That is something that I can see myself devoting my career to.
And I'm sure both of you will push for those endeavours. Thank you so much for joining me today, boys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I hope you have a good time and have a good day. Thank you.